Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, July 26th. LA Galaxy coming off of a 4-0 loss to FC Dallas. That wasn't fun if you watched it. Maybe, maybe not. We're going to talk about that performance, break down some of the stats, tell you what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like, all sorts of fun stuff, and little insights into the third of that 3-game road trip. Certainly an interesting one from the Galaxy. A lot of stuff coming up, rumor update, big rumor update, so hang in there for that. In fact, go tell all your friends they better tune in. Big rumor update incoming, so you're going to want to make sure you tune in for that, and just sort of getting you progressed through the LA Galaxy news as we get ready for a week that includes a home game on Friday night against the Portland Timbers. So a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. To help me do that, he's live from Tokyo, at least for the moment being, I should say. He's live from Tokyo from the moment being, Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter. Kev, how's it going, buddy? Yeah.
Hollywood to California, and then circles back. The lyrics of the song. That's like a circle.
Was it on purpose? No, it was not on purpose. So I'll tell you that. Just that's a little hint on that one. But let's talk about you for a little bit. Tokyo. How are things? Are they better? Or are you getting to go visit all of the events that you want to now?
Well, let me ask you a question first. Do you believe in reincarnation?
No, I don't believe I do.
But because if it's true, and I had a previous life, it certainly wasn't in Japan, because none of this is ringing any kind of bells for me. I don't get the language. I don't get anything that's going on. First of all, people ride bicycles at high rates of speed on the sidewalk all the time, which if you're from Valencia, you're kind of used to that. But at first it was sort of scary. I can't get the food at all. This is the longest since the South African World Cup that I have gone without Mexican food. It's been 8 days now. It came back from South Africa with a blood clot, so I'm kind of expecting the worst here.
Right.
I did have a veggie burger. I'm vegetarian, and it's really difficult in Japan. You would think, a lot of plant-based food. No. Everything has some sort of animal in it, and I can't understand what any of the food is. And the pictures, if you go to like a Denny's, you point to what you want. That's easy. The pictures here, they're horrible. The little picture of the food, I can't tell what anything is. Is that a rice ball? Is that mashed potatoes? Is that an albino turd? I don't know what it is.
Oh.
By the way, can you say turd on extraterrestrial podcast?
You can.
Okay, I just did.
I would say perhaps your hunger is getting the best of you. I can sort of tell. Well, I know you had Starbucks. Like, you can't be complaining that much.
The Starbucks cross street, I found it on the first day at like 9:30 in the morning. It hasn't been open in the morning since. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're a self-respecting Starbucks anywhere in the world, you need to be open at 9 in the morning. Maybe they're on LA time. I don't know. I did find it. It was open today. I got back there today.
Right.
But I found a Burger King, and I went in, and there was a German guy in there. He spoke English. He was able to tell me they did have plant-based burger. I had a Burger King burger and some French fries. It was like I went to Spago's. It was. I've been surviving on potato salad from the 7-Eleven next door.
You sound like the worst traveler, by the way. You're like, oh, I'm in Japan. Better not eat any Japanese food.
No,
I know. It's because it's vegetarian, but still.
Well, the vegetarian thing. But the other thing is on my previous trips, I was sampling all kinds of stuff because I could figure out what it was. Oh, this is seaweed burger. Okay, I'll try that. I don't know what any of this stuff is, and that's the problem because even in Russia, most of the letters were. You could sort of put the letters together and sort of figure out what something was.
This Japanese is not a Latin-based language.
It's all the kanjis, all the kanji, and I don't understand any of it, and I can't get anyone to speak to me. By the way, speaking of not understanding people, the maid was in the room when I came back from my Burger King run, and she pointed to her watch and said she was coming back to finish cleaning at some time. I have no idea. She could walk in any minute now. So if that happens, be prepared for that. So anyway, by the way, all of us have been going to 7-Eleven a lot. I don't know if you knew this about 7-Eleven. Not only does it have really good food here, the aforementioned potato salad, which I've had almost every night. But they have more liquor than a Bevmo. It's incredible.
Oh, nice. Yes.
And 30% of the world's 7-Elevens are in Japan, which it's a Japanese company apparently.
Really? I didn't know that at all. That's very interesting.
They're like everywhere.
You're
That's what my boss tells me anyways. He could be making it up. I don't know.
By the way, Field of Berm in the chat room has the line of the night so far. Kevin is a worse traveler than the galaxy. That was very, very well. Good job.
Like on previous trips, I experimented a lot. It's just the Japanese stuff is really throwing me for a loop. Right now we're expecting a typhoon, as you probably heard. It's going to be a tropical storm by the time it hits, if it hits. But the outer bands have already affected surfing. They've canceled rowing today. They've canceled archery. Baseball practice for the U.S. team was canceled. This gold medal game in softball is supposed to go on today, and I think they're just going to use regular softball rules. If they can play, they play. But if the rain gets heavy or whatever, the U.S. women's team, which is why, by the way, I have to bug out of here in about 40 minutes because I have to catch my bus for the 3-hour ride to the media center. Traffic here is insane.
Okay.
But the U.S. game is going to be played outside of Tokyo today in an area that is right sort of in the path of the hurricane. So they may or may not play. We're hearing the path keeps seeing it change a little bit, but we're hearing that it's supposed to come ashore Wednesday our time about 2 in the morning or so.
Gotcha. All right. Well, your wife texted me, and she said that whenever I hear about all your complaining, I should just tell you to be a goldfish. All right. So be a goldfish. Be a goldfish, Kevin.
Season 2 started last Friday.
I watched the first one. I'm there. My wife was upset that there wasn't another one to watch already, but you know what? We may go back and watch the first one of the second season again. So that's all.
You want me to tell you what happens in the next 4 episodes?
No. And
Okay.
we'll kick you off this show very quickly if that happens. Let's give everybody a reminder because we are in show week. Our live event at Taps Brewery is coming up on Saturday, July 31st. Remember, you're at 7 p.m. on Friday night. You'll be at Dignity Health Sports Park for the LA Galaxy as they host the Portland Timbers. However, on Saturday night, you should be with us at our live event. I got some confirmation today, or at least some. Well, it's hard to say confirmation when the schedules could obviously change very quickly. But I got some confirmation on some guests and some things that are happening. Cosmo will be there. I should tell everybody. Cosmo will be there. I know that 100%. And then some special guests that we have lined up. There's some. It's getting fun. You should be there. So make sure you get your tickets. You can click on the live button on our website and go down to the buy tickets. I think they're $6 with fees and all that stuff, and that just helps us sort of offset. But again, if you can't afford it, just show up anyway. I don't care. We're gonna have a great time. Linda Pickle's gonna be there. I think she's gonna put up a little LA Galaxy sort of mini museum. I gave her some ideas. I told her that I loved Robbie Keane, and so she had some Robbie Keane stuff. We could do that. So yeah, it should be fun. I know, Kevin, I think we're gonna try to connect with you during the live show while you're in Tokyo. We're gonna call you on your phone, and wherever you are, we'll make you talk.
Well, but you got bigger celebrities to worry about. By the way, you look older. Has something happened in the last week?
Yeah, I got way old. I'm 40 now, so yeah, that was a big thing. And I've eaten a lot of tiramisu in the last week too, because that was what I wanted for my birthday. Usually, I'm a tiramisu guy. So my wife goes to the Italian restaurant that I sort of grew up next to, and she gets it serves 16, and then I eat most of that myself. So. Yeah.
So you're 40. Even if you were a goalkeeper, people be saying, "Man, he's old. They gotta get young in a hurry."
As a podcaster, they're starting to say, "Seriously, this guy again?" That's what it is. Yeah, I understand that 100%. All right, let's get to the LA Galaxy game. A 4-0 loss to FC Dallas. Listen,
that's it. That's all you need to say.
I was going to say move on and go. No, I mean, here's the thing. And I certainly, if people weren't watching this game, and I think even some people who are watching it will find it sort of hard to believe, the Galaxy didn't play that bad. You can certainly say 4-0 is a very lopsided score, and it is absolutely 100%. Won't disagree. Galaxy shouldn't give up 4 goals. They gave up 2 of those pretty luckily. With bad bounces and sort of things. The first one that Dan Steres tried to stop on a reaction ball that was going to go through. If he doesn't touch it, it probably goes to Jonathan Bond, but he didn't know whether or not he was going to be able to get to it, and he didn't know if there was somebody in behind him. And so as much as people want to say that's bad defending, it's not bad defending. It's just unlucky defending. And the Galaxy had that happen twice in that game. I think the third goal was just sort of unlucky defending as well. They trapped the player, they trapped the ball, and the ball bounces sideways and goes right to Pepe, who ended up having a hat trick, youngest player in MLS history to score a hat trick in a game at 18 years and some days. I forget exactly how many days.
And think about this: if he didn't show up, it was 1-0.
It was
a manageable game.
They probably wouldn't have scored the 4th goal if that was the case.
So Pepe had 3 goals. Guess how many shots on goal the Galaxy had?
How many?
3.
3. Yeah, it's I'm going to show you some stats in this that sort of, I think in my mind, sort of tell me that what I saw was, an LA Galaxy team that worked really hard and just didn't have anything left in the tank in the third game of 3 on the road in 8 days. And it was funny talking to Sasha Kleshtin, talking to Greg Vanney, especially Sasha. I said, I think even for MLS, this seems extreme. You have 2 games that you play at altitude in the heat. And Sasha pointed out, he goes, those games in Salt Lake were hot too. I think 96 degrees at one point was kickoff. It got cool after that, but it was 96 degrees at kickoff at one point whenever they were in Salt Lake. And then they go out to Dallas, which is a special place as well. And so
96 degrees and over 50% humidity.
Yep.
That game, by the way, it's very humid here in Japan. I don't know if people realize the summers here are very hot and humid. This is kind of Miami humidity, not as bad as El Salvador, where it was last month. But
yep.
I mean, El Salvador, hell is not as bad as El Salvador. So
no, absolutely not.
But Sasha talked afterwards about, let's remember that half the starting lineup in that game, they had come from Europe. And yes, I know it's hot in France, and but it's nothing like Dallas in the summer. I mean, the 96 degrees and the humidity, it's insane. And that was the first time those players experienced weather like that, first of all. And the first time they had experienced weather like that in the third game in an 8-day span, all on the road, 2 of the previous games at altitude. So he said it's not a mental thing. The Galaxy are fine mentally. It's a physical thing. They the conditions were just overwhelmed them. I don't. It sounds like an excuse. I don't think it is an excuse. I think
can we stop with that? Can we stop with ever using the excuse word? Because I see that with Galaxy fans, and they act like that should make them feel better. They're hey, no excuses. These are not excuses, and I think we've said this on the podcast.
They're explanations. They're explanations. That's different. And there are coaches that make excuses. You hear all the time, the referee. You see it a lot on social media. Galaxy fans do it. If the ref wasn't a homer, or the ref had the money, the Dallas money in his pocket. No, the heat and the humidity played a role. It was difficult. The Galaxy were flat once they got behind. Vanney talked about he's not upset with the effort. The effort was fine. And it was, but I mean, I do think that when you're playing in that kind of heat, when you get behind 1-0 or 2-0, that's one thing. When you're down 4-0 in that kind of heat and humidity, I think what you want to do at that point is just finish the game out, get back on the plane, and go home, start over again.
Well, I mean, Greg shut it down after the third goal. He admitted that much. He said, you know what? He goes, and here's the thing: you go down 2-0 in the first half, and people can say that the Galaxy and eSupers in the chat room saying, the Galaxy gave up after the second goal. They absolutely did not give up after the second goal. The Galaxy actually played and finished out the half in an okay sort of spot there. Derek Williams blowing coverage on an easy corner kick on Pepe's second goal was probably the worst play out of the entire night. Other than that, the LA Galaxy, did the same things that they have been doing. And in this particular game, you couldn't do that, right? It was giving the ball away in bad places, and then having to, as Greg Vanney said, you're perfectly comfortable, you're in attack, you know that you're fine, and then you give the ball away in a bad spot, and all of a sudden you have to sprint 40 or 50 yards in order to get back. He goes, you can't afford to do that in that heat, in that humidity, in the third game of a 3-game road trip. I mean, it's and I think that Galaxy fans want to expect that Galaxy players or professional athletes are some sort of superheroes, that heat and humidity and altitude doesn't affect them, and that they're able to recover as fast as as they think that they should, right? I mean, bottom line is, Kevin, that if you and I were out there running around at altitude and then you told us 2 days later in a different city in heat and humidity you had to also go and run around some more, we'd be dead, all right? And you can't, and obviously we're not professional athletes. I don't want to compare us, but there's an effect that has, a cumulative effect that keeps happening. And you drain a battery, and you keep draining a battery. There's only so much battery left at the end of that. And unfortunately for the Galaxy, who are not a good team, or not a deep team, and certainly I'm looking at teams who did well during this, right? You look at Sporting Kansas City, or you look at New England, who did well during their sort of 3 games, and I think SKC only played 2 games, so that's not even a surprise. But whenever you look at the 3 games, like New England, Bruce has had that team now for the second or third year? Is this second year or third year?
Yeah. I think it's second full year.
Second full year for him, right? He's built that team with depth in mind, and you have them go out and they have a 9.3 game week, right? I mean, that's the idea. And Vanney's going to do that too, but they're not there yet, and everybody knows they're not there yet.
Well, and I mean, the Galaxy are 1-3-1 in July since Chicharito went out. They've given up 11 goals. They've scored 6. No one has stepped up to take Chicharito's spot. But when you mentioned the depth, they were without 4 guys. Chicharito's injured. They got 3 starters. Well, actually 5 starters, or 5 players, but 3 starters.
Right.
Away in international duty. They have Efrain, Sebastian, and Jonathan Dos Santos, who scored for Mexico in their Gold Cup quarterfinal. So they're playing these 3 games in 8 days. They're missing 4 starters. They're missing 6 players overall. They have the weather conditions. But on the other hand, no one stepped up. I mean, that's not an excuse either. That's another explanation. Nobody stepped up. 1-3-1. They can't do that. And you and I talked before we went on the air. And again, as usual, I was right and you're wrong. But we talked about how the Galaxy, yes, you're right about it, the difficulty of playing on the road. And Dallas is a hard place to play. And then 2 games in altitude, which wouldn't have happened normally if Vancouver had been home.
Wait. You said Dallas is a difficult place to play. They're a very, very difficult place to play, right? Well, I mean, we know that their record is that they haven't lost a home game in 16 straight home games. That's a ridiculous record. They may not be good this year, but they are not bad when they play at home.
Well, and they beat New England at home. And remember, the Galaxy would have played that first game in Vancouver, not at altitude, if it hadn't been for MLS putting Vancouver where they were, which is in Sandy, Utah. My point was, this was a 3-game road trip against 3 bottom feeders. They spent the time in Utah, which is not at home, but it's not traveling back and forth. So there was a little bit maybe of an advantage there. You know what? The Galaxy needed more than a point out of this road trip. And I don't care where you say you get it. They needed more than a point. I thought 4 points, a win and a draw, would have been good. That would have meant they got points in 2 games. 3 points would have been better than 1, obviously. But 1 point from those 3 games against those 3 teams, that's just not good.
Well, I mean, we talked about it whenever it happened too, right? The one game that they really screwed up, the game that they played the worst in, actually, was the game that they lost to Vancouver, that first game, because here they are, fully rested, coming in a week, going up against a Vancouver team that, listen, has been in winning positions so many times this year and hasn't won. They're one of the most unlucky teams that you saw them play against LAFC in a game that they probably should have won as well. So they lose that game against Vancouver. That was the game that they should have won. The RSL game was the hard game, and they got a point out of it, which would have been a great result had they beaten Vancouver. You go a win, and then you go a draw there. And it's John in the chat room says something really, really, I think, spot on. He says the excuses or explanations should come after, not before. Discussion and questions in advance plant the seed for excuses. The explanations, and Vanney said this ahead of time before we even started the road trip, and he said this to reporters, was he was worried about the game in Dallas. He was not so much worried about the short change between the Vancouver and RSL games, but he was worried about the short turnaround between the RSL game and traveling down to Dallas. He knew that was going to be a hard game. He knew that was going to be a tough one. And we talked to him even before they played Dallas, and I've sort of said, what do you make of this Dallas team? They don't lose at home. And he's like, yeah, he goes, they haven't been great on the road, and that sort of killed them. And he goes, and they haven't won a bunch of games at home. He goes, but no doubt about it, it's a difficult place to play. And so it's one of those things. So Vanney, you want explanations beforehand. Vanney basically said that third game is going to be super, super difficult to sort of play in that. And it turned out to be. And again, go look at the stats and sort of look how the Galaxy played in that first half. If they could find somebody to finish in this game, Kevin, they would have been just fine because they created a bunch of chances, actually. But they haven't. And that's sort of the Chicharito thing, right? We've talked about Chicharito and how important he is to this team. And without a second striker, and yes, we have the rumor. Yes, we will talk about it coming up here in a little bit. But when you look at this, the LA Galaxy were very much within this game. You look at Dallas's expected goals, and I told you they got lucky on a couple goals. Their expected goals was 1.4, so they should have scored between 1 and 2 goals, not 4. Look at the LA Galaxy. They should have scored between 1 and 2 goals at 1.3 on the expected goals. They didn't play poorly. They did not finish. And that finishing is certainly pointed at somebody like Kevin Cabral, who has not settled yet. And Greg Vanney actually talked about him and said, you don't need to be a genius to understand that, that Kevin Cabral has not produced and not done stuff. We can even play some of the audio about Kevin Cabral there. But for me in this game, it wasn't about effort. I know people are talking about Vanney's formation, and I know the LA Galaxy put out sort of this 4-3-3 hey, this is how the LA Galaxy are going to play. They didn't play like that. Victor Vasquez didn't play as a forward. He wasn't a false nine. He played more as a 10 in a creative role. Actually was one of the higher rated players from FOTMob. I know people don't want to, actually pay attention to that, but he played okay in the position so they played more in a 4-4-2, but the problem was that it wasn't really a 2 either, because Kevin Cabral did not get into this game at all. And the more he drifts inside, again, we've said it multiple times on this podcast, the more he drifts inside, the more problems the LA Galaxy have had. The real stud of this entire road trip, Kevin, if you can say that, after only getting 1 point out of 9, is Samuel Grandsir. Guy didn't score a goal, but absolutely worked his butt off, is doing all the hard work. Looks like Roman Alessandrini in a lot of ways in just his tireless effort to keep moving. He was one of the few guys who had a lot of energy throughout this entire game, and he just can't find that finishing thing yet. But he's hit the crossbar a bunch of times. I mean, he's close. So I think if you're taking any sort of positives away from this, it's that Grant Shearer feels like he is ready to sort of break out and be that player that everybody wants him to be.
Well, and if you want to look at the glass being half full, the Galaxy are still in third place. They didn't lose any ground. They came into the month in third place. They're still in third place. They didn't lose any ground.
Which says what about the rest of the teams in the Western Conference over the 3 games?
Yeah, everybody else sucked this month too. But that's the glass half full. The glass half empty is, well, if they had picked up a couple points, they would have moved up. And
Yep.
We know the other teams are going to get hot at some point. Sports is so cyclical. It's you always finish with the stat. You always finish where the back of your baseball card says you're supposed to finish. You have ups and downs, but you always find that medium. So the Galaxy had a chance to pick up ground. They didn't do it, but they didn't lose any ground. So it's kind of a wash. But what I wanted to say is, if they have a win or a tie against Portland and Colorado does not win its game, they can have a draw or a loss. Galaxy will go into August in third place for just the second time since 2016.
Yep.
It's not bad.
Yep.
Halfway through the season in third place, very comfortable playoff position. Seattle has lost twice now. They may be a little bit uncatchable, especially the way they played with all those teenagers in the last game. They may be a little bit uncatchable. Kansas City is certainly right there. But, even third place, it gets you a home playoff game.
It is. It's a good position to be in, and I'll say this: there's a midweek game for LAFC. They have a chance to
Thursday,
to
against
jump
Minnesota.
up against Minnesota, and so they could jump up and tie the LA Galaxy there. It would put them a game ahead. I think the LA Galaxy would have a game in hand against LAFC in that particular scenario. So just sort of keep that in mind as the LA Galaxy go. Let's get to Cabral though, because we've talked so much about him and sort of what he's supposed to do, and Greg Vanney even talked, about. Sort of what Kevin Cabral, could do, and maybe because he's a designated player, everybody expects him to do. So I want to give you, Damien asked the question, and I thought it was a great question. It's been a very quiet media calls without you on there, Kevin, by the way. I just wanted to point out, it's been like, me and Damien sort of just hanging out, having a good time. So let's...
Well, intelligent questions. I'm sure the Galaxy are appreciating the change.
I'm sure that's it. But Damien asked about Kevin Cabral. I thought Vanney's interest is because I see people in the chat room, I see people during the game, they need to sit Kevin Cabral. You don't sit your young designated player. You don't break him. That's not what it is. He's trying to figure this out. He looks lost in the system. And I think Greg Vanney does a great job of explaining and being very frank about where Kevin Cabral is. So here's Greg Vanney after the game.
Yeah, he didn't have a ton of impact in the games in terms of those things, goals and assists and things like that. So that's evident. That's easy to see. Anybody can kind of see that stuff. I think he's learning. He's a young man he's 21, just turned 22. I think the expectation when you have a DP tag is you're coming in and light it up, but we see the value for him too is that he still needs to fill out some physically. He needs to learn the league. He needs to learn to manage the physicality. I think some of his running is clever, and sometimes we pick him up and sometimes we don't. Sometimes he tries to play in combination so quick that it becomes like we turn over the ball in those moments, and it needs to sometimes just slow down just a little bit and connect with the group. So his intentions are good. He's trying to adapt to things, and he will as he continues to work through this. And so part of it for me is to try to help him learn, try to help him grow, and try to help him to adapt as we continue to move forward and the group continues to fill out. But for me, there's I didn't expect him to come in and score 10 goals. I think he's been in good spots and hasn't executed in times. And he needs to continue to learn and grow. But we think, we know this, his future and his upside is excellent. But I think physically he's got to try to he's got to grow and meet the demands of the physicality of the league sometimes. And sometimes just slow down and play in connection in partnership with his teammates a little bit and not try to rush things through. So, he'll come around. It's a work in progress.
There we go. A little Greg Vanney for everybody there talking about Kevin Cabral. Yes.
You know what he left out? He left out the I don't think people understand this or completely understand it. The benefit of watching from the sidelines for a player, any player, but especially one who's struggling, to look at the game from a different angle. Yeah, I know they watch a ton of film, but the film is film. It's old. To watch the game develop from the sidelines, you see things that you can't see on the field. Even Zlatan, who was a 20-year professional veteran, as opposed to Cabral. Cabral's played a couple of years.
Right.
Even Zlatan said that first 70 minutes of his first game, he learned a ton. That's how he scored that long goal over Tyler Miller. He said he noticed from the sidelines that the goalkeeper was coming out of the net, and he wouldn't have noticed that if he was in the game. So you learn a lot by watching. Obviously, you see a lot when you watch. Greg didn't mention that, but I think there's probably a benefit of that for Cabral as well. I think mentally having him sit there and watch the team struggle and knowing that he wasn't able to help, I think that's a benefit too. I think it probably fires him up a little bit. Like, my team is going down and I'm not doing anything to help them. So I think mentally and then educationally, I think it was probably a really smart decision.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening here with Kevin Cabral. I'll tell you right now, I'm not worried, and I don't think there's anything. The LA Galaxy know this is a 5-year project. Now, it's probably not a 5-year project, right? But it's at least a 2-year project, Kevin. It's at least a 3-year project. Whenever you look at what they're trying to do, and the benefits that are coming because of the young designated player instead of a just regular designated player are going to show themselves, and already have with Efrain Alvarez and Julian Araujo signing their extensions in the LA Galaxy, inking those and making them both U22 players. And there's another U22 player in the crosshairs. Yeah, the crosshairs. We can say that.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
No, I'm not. No, not yet. I don't want to. Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's coming up, folks.
Yeah. I was going to say.
There's the rhombus again.
Yeah, this is the LA Galaxy shape in this, and you can see that Grant Sear was really one of the few forwards there. Certainly with Victor Vasquez tucking in, that was interesting. And then Cabral, I do not like to see him. And for those of you on the podcast, Cabral's just over the half line, well behind where Grant Sear is, and he's tucked more into the middle than I would like to see him as a winger. He's a better winger. And the biggest problem with Cabral right now is that he has to play inside because the LA Galaxy don't have a second striker. Also, big rumor, we're going to talk about it. So being that is, you're already playing him out of position in places. And then now not only are you playing him out of position, but he's having to adapt and struggle all this. So, that's sort of where we sit with this. I'll say that if you look at, and people who question, I've seen, this stupid statement multiple times so far, is that the LA Galaxy, didn't play with enough, they didn't play for the badge on the shirt. There wasn't enough effort. Again, they won the duels. They won the tackles attempted. They won the tackles succeeded. The aerial duels won. The interceptions won. Whenever you look at all this, that's not a team that lacks effort. It's a team that lacked finishing.
And Greg Vanney said so. Greg Vanney said he was pleased with the effort.
Yeah, and by the way, he's right. And Vanney said this after the game, said it to us, and you can go listen to the entire one. It's on our YouTube channel or on our website. Is you can go listen to the entire post game. Listen to him talk about it. He said, after halftime, we were down 2-0. I told the guys that they would have 10 minutes to sort of react to this. You have the first 10 minutes. You better get a reaction. You better score a goal. He goes, and then that puts us in a good position for the rest of the game, and let's do it. So it's 2-0 in the first 10 minutes. The LA Galaxy get that their second unlucky bounce to Pepe, who scores his third goal 5 minutes into the second half, and that was it. And Greg Vanney shut it down after that. So if you want to be angry at anybody for a fourth goal or for the Galaxy not getting back into this, Greg Vanney said after that, he goes, in the long term, it's better for me to rest somebody like Sasha Klesch and Victor Vasquez. It's better for me to put those guys on the bench and rest the guys who have been, sort of struggling through this road trip, because it's not worth it in this heat and humidity to come here and try to get that back at 3-0. Just shut it down. And you shut it down. And the Galaxy did a good job of pressing. The Galaxy did a good job of creating chances. In fact, most of their chances were in the second half. The Galaxy are a set-piece team, and they can score off set pieces, so that was where a lot of their expected goals came from. But here, the fourth goal, Dan Steres cramps up trying to go after the guy, and it was already a breakaway. It was already a bad position the Galaxy had put themselves in because they were pressing up trying to score goals. So again, yes, 4 goals is ridiculous. When I look at that, I see one really bad goal in this entire sort of thing, and that was where Derek Williams mistimed his jump, I think, on the second one, on the corner kick. Other than that, there were some pretty unlucky bounces for the Galaxy. And maybe they got the lucky bounces earlier in the year, Kevin. And I know people like to say that these things even themselves out. Maybe the lucky bounces came, and this is just a little bit of tough love.
Well, we've been talking on the show all along. When the Galaxy were 8-4, we were saying, look, the team's really not that good. We were surprised they were 8-4, and we looked at the strength of their opponents, and they really haven't beaten a good team this year. And so 8-4 seemed like reasonable, but were they really that good? Were we getting too excited? They're not as bad as they've been in July at 1-3-1. And remember, they're playing without the guy they built their team around. Now, you can argue about whether that was smart to build a team around one guy, but that's what happens in a lot of leagues. It certainly happens in MLS. Teams build around one personality. So they weren't as good as they were at 8-4. They're not as bad as they are at 1-3-1. But put those two things together, and the Portland game is huge. Why? Because it's a beatable opponent. They're outside the playoff picture right now. It's a team the Galaxy should beat. They're at home after they've been gone for the last 3 games. Yes, they're still without their starters, but it's a character test. How do you react to a road trip where you get 1 point? How do you react to coming home at the end of a 1-3-1 month? How do you react to trying to prove that you're as good as you were at 8-4 and not as bad as you were at 1-3-1? All those factors come in. It's a character test. And this is a team with some veterans like Sasha Kljestan. Jonathan Bond is a veteran, maybe not an MLS veteran, but he's been around, over a decade. This is a test for some of these guys. I think they're going to pass it, but it's a test nonetheless. If they come out and just don't react at all, that's a really bad sign. If they come out and fight and say, run up a big score, 3-0, 4-0, something like that, then they clearly got the message. So I'm going to be watching not only for how they play and for the result, but for how big of a result is it? Do they blow them out? Because I think the Galaxy sort of need to do that to feel good about themselves now.
I think they get 3 points against Portland on Friday, and it doesn't matter how it sort of happens; they'll feel just fine. Remember,
well, no, I do think they need to run up a big result because they really haven't. They've had, I think, maybe one game, the San Jose game, and there maybe one other game at home where they dominated. I do think they need to dominate a game. And if they do that, again, without those 4 starters, I think maybe Chicharito will be back. But if they do that without, the core of their midfield, that's a really big message.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. I'll tell you the one thing that is certainly a positive from this game is that Danilo Acosta made his return for the LA Galaxy. It's 519 days after suffering a major knee injury. He makes his return, got to play. I cannot understate how important Danilo Acosta is to this game and to this team, because if you look at Jorge Villafana, who is a good player but is probably not capable, Kevin, of playing every single minute of every single game as he has done up until this point through the first 15 games. Outside of when Acosta actually came on, I think that was the first time that Villafana actually got subbed off in a game and didn't have to play all 90 minutes. But you need to be able to give Villafana rests in some games. You need to be able to pull him off and say, okay, you've done well. Let's let Danny come in and sort of smooth things out. And they haven't had that option, right? So
Villafana is a guy we haven't talked about this year at almost at all. And he's just been a solid. He's like an offensive lineman, solid guy doing his job, not flashy, not making scoring the winning goal, but just solid. And you don't notice him. I think he's been excellent.
He's been very, very solid and everything that you sort of wanted in that position. But again, you can't have him play every minute, right? You need to give him some rest. And Danny Acosta allows this now to happen. That allows it to come in and sort of play a different role now for the LA Galaxy, is Acosta being healthy. So it adds depth, which is certainly something the LA Galaxy need. It adds depth at a position where they currently don't have anybody at. And so with Villafana in that position, I think the Galaxy are in a much much better position headed into, another very busy August, end of July, and then very busy August as we continue through with that. So Galaxy lose 4-0. Overall, the road trip not good. But when you look at where the LA Galaxy still sit and where they're at, I think the Galaxy themselves would be pretty happy with sort of where they are currently positioned. And again, outside of sort of SKC and Seattle, although Seattle struggled, big surprise. You have a whole bunch of guys who are off on international duty and different things like that. They're going to struggle. And with all the injuries they've had as well, you can sort of see that, they're outside of that the Western Conference is very clumped, very close together. There's some good teams, there's some bad teams, but there's certainly not like this super big separation between playoff teams and non-playoff teams that I see right now. I think it's a lot closer. So I think the Galaxy stay close and can sort of get in there. A game against Portland is one that realistically they should probably win. So we'll keep an update on. We'll keep.
And you say they've got a long road, sort of a long homestand coming up.
They play 5 of their next 6 games are at home. 5 of their next 6. That is, say what you want. I've said it many times, Kevin, is that winning on the road is difficult in Major League Soccer, right? It's very difficult. Do it for 3 games in a row, it becomes even more difficult. But you should win home games. The LA Galaxy have some difficult games coming up, certainly. They have Portland coming up on Friday. Then they'll host Real Salt Lake, who I think they're better than. So that's a game maybe they should win. Then they host Vancouver, who they are better than. So that's a game that they should win. They go to Minnesota, and then they come back, and they play against Colorado, who is a good team and is very close to where I think the LA Galaxy are, and may even be a better team than the LA Galaxy, but they have them at home. That should be a win for the LA Galaxy. They play San Jose, who's not a good team. That should be a win for the LA Galaxy. And then there's the All-Star break, and then there's the game where they go to Bank of California Stadium. So the next 5 of their 7 games are at home for the LA Galaxy. You want to talk about disaster? Disaster is not picking up the points that they're supposed to.
Well, and the 2-week stretch between the Minnesota and LAFC games, I think that's a big stretch because they're going to play Minnesota, which it plays well at times on the road. That could be a difficult game, especially if they're, we don't know where everything's going with COVID, but we're going to assume right now that Minnesota will be a packed stadium, a great environment. Then they come home with Colorado, which, as you said, is a very good team. They are still sort of like the Galaxy. I think people are looking at them saying, is this for real or is this all smoke and mirrors? So those 2 games will be tough. Then they got kind of an easy one in between, presumably an easy one with San Jose.
Right.
And then that long road trip to LAFC, they're starting to play well now. So there's
they almost lost to Vancouver. They should have lost to Vancouver.
Right. They're winless in their last 2, but they're playing better now than they were before. And Vela scored in 3 straight games. They're not the LAFC of the past, but they're a team that can beat you. So there's I think 3 tough games in that 4-game stretch. That'll tell us a little bit more about the Galaxy.
Yeah, absolutely. It should. The LA Galaxy and their Gold Cup players, there's games coming up on Thursday. The United States will play against Qatar, and that game is at, I think, 4:30 p.m. So that one is on Thursday, July 29th. That's where Sebastian Lletget will be in that game, and ended up playing I think, in their quarters against Jamaica. That was a really interesting game to watch last night, if some of you watched it. And then you had Mexico, who really ran, sort of rampant over, I think, Honduras was, if I'm correct in remembering, and 3-0. Jonathan Dos Santos had a worldy goal there, perhaps maybe one of the goals of the tournament.
Try that again.
I can't. The coffee's kicking in. I'm going all sideways anyway. So Mexico and Canada will face off later on Thursday night. So those are your 3 LA Galaxy players who are still in the Gold Cup. Pipo Gonzalez and O'Neal Fisher will be returning and should already, quote, be returned to the LA Galaxy on this. So, but yeah, that's.
Let's talk just a minute about Qatar, because people wonder why is that, why are they even in the World Cup, or in the Gold Cup rather? Well, they are hosting the World Cup in 2022. I think they were a little concerned about being embarrassed, just as Russia was in the last World Cup, and the Russian team played fairly well in the group stage. So in 2018, the Asian Federation, which Qatar is part of, and CONCACAF made an agreement to invite teams to come play in the next 2 Gold Cups. And Qatar has spent a ton of money. Their team is all domestic based. Every player plays in Qatar. But they've spent a ton of money trying to upgrade their team. They have an all-Spanish coaching staff that came from Barcelona. They're unbeaten in their last 12 games dating to December. They have 2 wins over El Salvador. They beat Honduras being a World Cup team. They beat Croatia's U21 team. They had draws with Panama, a World Cup team, and Ireland. They played really well in this Gold Cup. I don't think they're going to beat the U.S. I think the U.S. is by far the biggest test that they've had so far. But this Qatar team is not that bad. And if they get past the U.S., presumably they'll find Mexico in the final, an even bigger test. If they were to do that, they would certainly earn the Gold Cup championship. And remember, the Gold Cup championship, that's the CONCACAF, the Confederation Championship. Qatar already has the Asian Championship. They would be the first team in modern history to have 2 Confederation Championships at the same time.
I mean, interesting. I'll tell you from the Galaxy perspective, you hope that Canada beats Mexico and that Qatar beats the United States. That way you get all your players back as quickly as possible. So,
you're really going to cheer against the United States?
I first of all, don't care. Second of all, I watch enough soccer. Like, I do not care. It's not one of those things. I know Greg Vanney is cheering for Sebastian Lletget to get back and cheering for Jonathan Dos Santos and Efrain Alvarez.
But go put that schedule back up, because there's something that you said that's very interesting here. Okay, so not that schedule, the Galaxy schedule.
Oh, the Galaxy schedule. All right, hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. Okay, Galaxy schedule.
Okay, so the Gold Cup game is Thursday, and then the Galaxy play Friday. Those guys could, even if they had a supersonic jet, they're not. Even if Jeff Bezos lent them his rockets.
Where do you think they're playing in the United States that they couldn't get back for a Friday night game? I'm not saying it would happen. I'm just saying yes, you absolutely could make it back.
But I don't think it happens. And then the next game with Vancouver, even if they play in the Gold Cup Championship on Sunday, they're back for that one. So I don't think it makes a difference whether they win or lose. I think they don't play against Real Salt Lake no matter what, and they are available for Vancouver.
We'll see how it goes. Anyway, but yeah, that's where everything sort of lines up. Those guys. Let's get to the power rankings real quick. I just want to talk about this because this is my boy at Ben Wright on Twitter, who I think does the power rankings right. Currently, LA Galaxy in 6th. I think they dropped 2 spots there. Makes sense to me. And again, Nashville. If you're sleeping on Nashville, you're sleeping. Stop sleeping. Pay attention. New York City FC. I mean, hey.
Who do they have as number 1? I can't really read that.
Sporting is number 1,
okay.
which, by the way, they jumped Seattle, or at least they're right next to Seattle, and they beat Seattle well in that game on Sunday. I don't disagree, but I think it's interesting. New England is at 5th, and New England currently leads in the Supporters Shield race. So we'll do that.
But Nashville has that great defense, and then they won a game recently 5-0. So they're starting to figure out how to score a little bit.
They're fun. Somebody said that,
and they're playing without Walker Zimmerman, who's the best player.
They are absolutely, and their defense didn't collapse. Gee, Dave Romney back there again, doing everything that he's supposed to be doing. So that's where we sit on that. Let's get to rumor update before you have to bail, because I know we're getting close to your
right after the rumor update. I'm out of here.
All right, let's get to our rumor update then, and let me click on my notes, because God knows that I need as many notes as I possibly can find.
Actually, I should go and let you do this. Is your rumor update? You did this yourself. I should just let you have this one.
It's absolutely up to you. If you want to bail now, you can. So that way you can go. So
goodbye, everybody.
Hold on, you can say goodbye to everybody again.
Sayonara.
Yep. All right, there goes the Baxter.
The U.S. women's national team game.
Yes, good luck. Have fun. Hopefully your 7-Eleven is open so you can get something to eat.
It's open 24/7. It's awesome.
You're awesome.
Right next to the hotel. It's there's another place called Family Mart, which is pretty much the same thing.
Gotcha.
They're everywhere as well. Anyway, sayonara.
All right, thanks, Kevin. We will talk to Kevin next week and rock and roll through that. All right, let's get to your rumor update. I was able to get an update from this morning. So anything that we reported over the last week, which I think on Friday we came out with our report on this rumor. This rumor surrounds a 21-year-old Dejan Joveljic, and I'm sure I'm saying that incorrectly. Joveljic, perhaps, as well. But Joveljic is 21-year-old, currently playing for Eintracht Frankfurt. He is a guy who has been on loan to a couple different teams in some different leagues as well. He had 19 goals in the Bundesliga and Europa League in 2020-2021 season. Certainly a rising star, a guy who is very, very good, has played at Red Star Belgrade as well. I know people were sort of saying, hey, let's make sure everybody is checking backgrounds after, certainly with the Alexander Katai situation. But this seems like a guy who could be a great second striker for the LA Galaxy. We have been telling you on this program that the LA Galaxy have been worried about that second striker position and that they have been working on it. And listen, it should be for years, but really, particularly this year, from the start of this year, that they were working on it. They knew they had some other places to sort of shore up, and they weren't. I feel like they weren't really satisfied with the directions or the players that they were getting, and it didn't really fit into their long-term plan. Well, with this 21-year-old striker who definitely can score some goals, this is a chance for the LA Galaxy to do something that they sort of set up whenever they brought in Kevin Cabral, and that is sign a player to a U22 project contract. And so right now, Joveljic is going to be a U22 player. Now, whenever we talked on Thursday, or at least whenever I put in the update on Thursday, I had talked a little bit about, how close this deal was. And as of Thursday or Friday, sort of the responses from within the organization, and of course, some people that I was talking to, was that it's not close. It was not on the precipice as everybody was announcing. It was not super close and this is going to happen and blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you right now that as of, Monday morning and sort of talking throughout this, it seems like there is some positive progress along that. So if we would say that this is a 3-star rumor on our rumor tracker, we are now in the 4-star rumor. This is getting closer and closer to being done. I think the LA Galaxy can say and are sort of waiting for some green lights to come back in terms of, hey, yes, this is going to work. Yes, we can do this. Yes, there's a whole bunch of things that sort of need to happen. I'm sure league approval, all those other things that we've talked about many times, sort of trying to figure out what is happening with this. But as a 19 goal scorer, as a guy who is just 21 years old, and perhaps around about $4.1 million transfer fee. The U22 rule is that transfer fees are unlimited. They do not count towards salary cap or anything else. And in fact, you can pay the player up to about $612,500, that max budget. So the player can make, some decent money. And make that decent money, and the clubs can get, compensated at over the $4 million. As the LA Galaxy sit right now, they're expecting sort of that this is progressing in the correct way. So to update sort of our Friday talk, I think it was Friday, to update our Friday talk is that things continue to progress. This is headed towards a signing right now. There still could be some roadblocks. Things are not done, but they're getting closer and closer to done. And I feel like the LA Galaxy are getting more and more confident within signing Joveljic. And so we'll see sort of where that lands. Now, in order for this to happen as well, the LA Galaxy are tapped out on international slots and tapped out on roster slots. 30 players on the main roster, and they have the 8 players that they have on an international. Now, they could go out and buy an international slot, but they would still have to send somebody down to Galaxy 2 or trade somebody or loan somebody in order to free that up. Here is sort of, and this isn't the hard one to sort of guess. If you need an international slot, you need to free up some salary, and you need to free up, a roster slot itself. So an international and a roster slot and some salary. There's one player the LA Galaxy have had on the roster who hasn't seen any minutes this year and seems surplus to sort of their goals, and that's Pipo Gonzalez. So as you're looking at this, I think if this deal goes through, then you're looking at the last days of Pipo Gonzalez with the LA Galaxy as well. So Pipo Gonzalez looks like he'll either move within the league or he'll move outside of the league. I feel like the LA Galaxy think that that's pretty confident that they're going to be able to make that happen. So that won't get in the way. That's sort of the thing. That's not going to get in the way. That's not going to happen. So as far as the LA Galaxy are concerned, they, as long as they get all the answers back that they expect that they're going to get back, Joveljic could be an LA Galaxy player here in pretty short time. So keep an eye on this, and I'll try to update as we go along. I'll put out a rumor update for Tuesday morning. I'll go in there and update everything that I've reported here. But the LA Galaxy are definitely closing in on Joveljic, and everybody who's reported that as being done is not correct. And we talk about this a lot. Saying things are done when they're not done and then they eventually get done does not mean that you were correct in how you do this. So I want to make sure the Galaxy fans understand sort of where we're at. It's not done. It's not across the line, but things are looking very positive for the LA Galaxy as they close in on this 21-year-old striker who can definitely score goals. And it gives you a reliance on one, even playing with 2 strikers, right? You can play him up top with Chicharito, but really it also allows you to take some workload off of Chicharito as you try and get him through the rest of the season healthy. We're expecting on Wednesday the LA Galaxy to update us on Chicharito. That is when the media call is happening on Wednesday with Greg Vanney. Probably some select players in there as well, maybe Jonathan Bond. We'll see who shows up. I was sort of saying maybe Chicharito could talk, but we would have to have an injury update that says Chicharito is available and then have Chicharito talk. I said we could pull it off, but sort of keep an eye on Wednesday, and we'll update with Sego Coulibaly, who seems like he's close to being back, and Chicharito, who is also close to being back. So that's sort of where you're sitting with the LA Galaxy in this latest rumor. It is true the LA Galaxy have had interest in this. It seems like there has been offers being made. I don't know what the exact numbers there are in all that, but you basically could get this young 21-year-old striker for a salary cap hit in about $200,000, even if you pay upwards of $4 or $5 million in a transfer fee. So some ridiculous dealing by the LA Galaxy. I don't know. I've watched this guy play. Somebody said that he reminds them of a younger sort of Robbie Keane, which is a super flattering look. But obviously, you're looking at highlights for Joveljic and sort of how he could come about. So we'll see. We'll see if it all comes to fruition, but right now I'd say, you have green light to sort of start getting excited about this. It seems like the LA Galaxy are going to make this move. So the LA Galaxy is scheduled. They're actually off on Monday. The team traveled back after Saturday. They traveled back home. I think they even took Sunday off to sort of let everybody rest. They were off on Monday as we're recording today. They'll be back training Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then, of course, the 7 p.m. kickoff against the Portland Timbers. That's an ESPN game. I think Brian Dunseth is actually going to be the color guy on this ESPN side of things, so keep that in mind. I might be trying to get Dunny on the show on Thursday. We'll see if we can make that happen so we can talk to him a little bit before he covers this game against the Portland Timbers coming in. We've talked a bunch about the schedule. Just to go over the standings one more time. Western Conference right now, it's Seattle who's in first in the Western Conference despite losing to Sporting Kansas City on Sunday. Both of these teams have 2 points per game. 32 points for Seattle and 30 points for SKC. Seattle with the 16 games played, and Sporting Kansas City with just 15. The LA Galaxy are in third, 5 points behind SKC. That's where it hurts because you could have closed that gap a little bit. Had you played better against Vancouver, that would have been a chance to sort of jump into second, but obviously with the results coming after that, maybe it doesn't hold. Maybe you're still in third place. But with 15 games played for the LA Galaxy, still have a game in hand over to Seattle. And like I said, watch that LAFC game on Thursday or Wednesday. I can't remember. Kevin was giving us dates, and he's a day ahead. So whenever he's like, oh, the Galaxy play on Saturday. No, they play on Friday night, that type of thing. So anyway, that LAFC game is going to be an important one to watch to see if they can climb up and tie the LA Galaxy. And then the Friday game matters, all that much more for the Galaxy, who currently sit in third. Last in the Western Conference is Austin right now. If you look at the Eastern Conference, we talked about New England's 9-point week off of the 3 games they had. New England up there with 33 points, now first in the Supporters Shield as well. Nashville in second place in the Western Conference, 26 points. Orlando, Philadelphia, Columbus, New York City, and Montreal round out their playoff teams. Last in the Eastern Conference, and I believe last in Major League Soccer is Miami. Phil Neville, David Beckham, certainly not doing well for all of that. As we look at the Supporters Shield again, New England out in front right now by 1 point, has 2.06 points per game as well, sitting on 16 games. Right there, Seattle at 16 games as well, and the 32 points, so just 1 point behind New England, who is coming on. Big surprise, Bruce Arena, somehow finding a way to make all of this interesting and exciting in the Eastern Conference. I want to get to a little bit more here, just sort of, the game on Friday night. And again, it's not Saturday, it's Friday night. ESPN Deportes, 7 p.m. kickoff time. This is, I think, a 7:18 kickoff. Yes, a 7:18 kickoff for the LA Galaxy against Portland. So just keep that in mind as you're getting ready to head to the game. And, certainly Portland has been playing a little bit better. So this is a big game for the LA Galaxy as it sort of comes ahead. For me, this is sort of the stretch. We talked about it. The next, 5-7 games are at home. The teams they're playing aren't teams that are, insurmountable. They are going to be tough games, but there's certainly games the LA Galaxy should get points out of. And so, looking at the game against Portland is sort of the kickoff there. Win in any form is exactly what the Galaxy wanted to do. The Galaxy haven't lost back-to-back games yet this season, and I think they've made that a pride point, and I think they're going to continue to make that a pride point. But if you go back at least the last 3 games the LA Galaxy have played against Portland, the Galaxy have lost. So keep that in mind as you get ready for this Portland game coming up on Friday night. So that's sort of where I sit on everything. Again, a reminder, our live event comes up on Saturday. So Friday night is the game. Saturday night, you should be hanging out at Taps in Orange County. It's in Tustin. The directions and everything are on our page, cornerofthegalaxy.com. Click the live show button there, and you can buy tickets. You can do all that stuff. But please show up. Have a good time. We're going to celebrate my birthday afterwards. So, the live show ends at 7. At 7:05, I better have more than one beer in my hand. That would sort of be where we sit after that. So hopefully you'll come out and have a good time, converse with some LA Galaxy fans and some people who've been around for a long time, and we'll certainly see where the LA Galaxy are. Again, I'm not worried. I don't think anybody should be hitting the panic button on the LA Galaxy. The road trip was tough because they lost to Vancouver. If that goes better, and that was the worst game they played all year. If that game goes better, then I think the road trip goes better. So just sort of see where they fall and see how they can sort of manage with a week. Now, again, you're not going to get Sebastian Lletget back, which is, I think, a very integral part to this midfield for the LA Galaxy. You're not going to get... Jonathan Dos Santos or Efrain Alvarez, and Alvarez is sort of a spot player, spot starter for me. It's one of those things. So, we look at this and say that the LA Galaxy are going to be largely unchanged going against Portland. Don't expect 100% different things to happen. I think for me, just want to sort of see how they rebound from this and how they sort of go about this. This is a season where the LA Galaxy are in 100% sort of turning the boat around, right? Everybody tends to already forget that in 2020, the LA Galaxy were a horrible team. Nobody could watch. It's one of those things. By the way, a huge shout out to Panda for a little, and I think this might even be in a different currency. So I don't want to get it 100%. I don't want to be like this is wrong and how it goes, but basically showing a Mexican 200 super chat. So that happens in there. Thank you, Panda Legacy. Certainly appreciate that. Thank you very much. And then Patrick, a little $5 super chat in there, says he can't make it to Taps, but this beer's on me. Certainly appreciate that as well. Don't expect for the LA Galaxy that Jonathan Dos Santos, isn't going to be there. So again, the Galaxy are going to be shorthanded. We'll see whether or not Chicharito comes in, but I do have a feeling that Chicharito comes back in this game. I believe Sega Coulibaly could possibly come back and be available on the bench from this game. I don't know if those guys start. So that's going to be the difference here, is Chicharito is going to be up there, whether they start him or whether he comes in. It'll be one of those things that you want to watch for the LA Galaxy as they go. All right. I think that's it. I think we're good. It's a difficult week for the LA Galaxy just in terms of getting their heads screwed back on. But it is one where the LA Galaxy should win on Portland. We're going to talk on Thursday night. Certainly get you ready for that game as it comes about. So I think that about does it. I don't want to go and ramble on forever. Again, please join us for the live show coming up on Saturday night. Buy your tickets, and hopefully we'll see you out there. And then we have a show on the internet on Thursday night. Saturday night's show will not be broadcast anywhere. We will put it up as a podcast later, but it will not be on YouTube. It will not be live. Unless you're there, then you're going to get to have a chance to do it. So this is a super important week and a super important homestand for the LA Galaxy, who their next 3 games are at home. Win those 3 games, get your 9 points, get back sort of on this groove and then on this rhythm. So that way you can start attacking the second half of the season. August is a difficult one, but it will be a good one. So everybody hang in there with the LA Galaxy. Don't give up hope on this. There's nothing that I've seen that is not correctable. Greg Vanney will say death by 1,000 paper cuts, and it has been little mistakes that have cost the Galaxy. All right, let's see. If you are looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com where you can find all of our writings, articles, all that fun stuff is right there for you. For Panda, at KBaxter11, please follow him as he's in Tokyo covering a whole bunch of different things. I think he's going to get to cover rugby and surfing coming up. So keep an eye on that for the Panda as well. But at KBaxter11, LATimes.com for his coverage. All right, that does it. This is it. Live event week. We get to see you guys on Friday night at the game and then on Saturday night at Taps. I'm super excited. Can't wait to see you out there. Please come and hang out. Come party with me. All right, for Kevin, the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.